Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Maoist-Third Worldist Network. Today, I wanted to talk about the Hebrew phrase Tiqqūn ʿōlām. Tiqqūn ʿōlām can be translated as repairing, fixing the world. Tikkun is to fix or to repair. Ha is the Hebrew word for the, and olam is world. So it is repairing or fixing the world. It is an age-old and extremely important concept in Judaism. In fact, there is a Jewish magazine, a progressive Jewish magazine, not communist, but progressive, called Tiqqūn, which basically calls Jews to work toward the remedying of the problems in the world. It is not exclusively Jewish, however. There are people who write for the magazine who are members of other religions, liberal Christians, liberal Muslims, and so on. But in its initiation, it was a magazine primarily for liberal Jews who were interested in finding out ways that they could work for making a better world for all of us. Problem. Here, we are confronted with a situation in Palestine, which is not new. It's been going on for a long time, since at least the late 1940s. Even before the State of Israel, so-called, the country of Israel, was formed. When Jewish tanks, soon to be Israeli tanks, went into the Palestinian territories, leveled homes, killed many Palestinians, drove the rest to what has become known as the occupied territories, and prepared the land for the formation of the State of Israel. The lie that has been repeatedly told by many Zionists that Israel was simply a desert, it was simply empty, it was uninhabited before Israel was formed, is just that, a lie. There were people who were already living there. When the UN started Israel, formed Israel, they also started Palestine, but understandably, the Palestinians refused to go along with it. Why? Well, because Israel was being established on land that was already occupied by Palestinians. It would be like, somebody comes up to you and says, well, look, I'm sorry, but the city that you are living in is no longer going to be a part of the United States or whatever country you happen to live in. We are forming a new country, and therefore you need to evacuate where you live and move someplace else. How would you feel? Well, I know how I would feel. I'd want to find out what the reason is for this. I'd want to know, will I be compensated? I would also want to know what kind of employment will I have if I move to a new place. But certainly, I would not be very happy about this new event that suddenly I am being asked to leave my home and move someplace else. Well, that's precisely what happened in the late 1940s in Palestine. The inhabited Palestine, not the desert of Palestine. There was no such thing. It was an inhabited area. People lived there. People worked there. People had families there. How in the world does that work toward the idea of Tikkun ḥa'olam? When Zionism was first proposed in the 19th century, there was no thought that Israel would be formed in Palestine. There was no idea where or even if it would be formed. But the idea of starting a new Israel in Palestine was not even considered seriously. Certainly, the Palestinians were not responsible for the Holocaust. It was the Germans. My own feeling, in alignment with the late Muammar Gaddafi, who was a personal hero to me, is that Palestine should have been carved out of Germany. Now, certainly that would have meant that some, maybe a lot of Germans would have had to move, maybe if they chose to. I suppose they could have stayed there as well, but in that case, they would be living in a place that was no longer called Germany, but that was instead called Israel or whatever, the new Israel, maybe. I have no idea. But either way, I think that the travesty that Germany as a country perpetrated upon the Jews, and not only the Jews, Gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, and others, made them indebted to the Jews. And it would have been certainly understandable for the United Nations to expect a portion of Germany to go to the formation of a new Jewish state, whether Germans liked it or not. Now, again, I wouldn't like it either if I were German. It wouldn't please me, but at least that would be somewhat logical. Seems somewhat logical to me. Forming an Israel in a place that was already inhabited, forcing its inhabitants out under the name of Zionism, a Zionism which was never foreseen to be in Palestine, is simply a violation of the principle of Tiqqūn ʿōlām, repairing, fixing the world, remedying the world. How are you repairing the world? By forcing people who live in a place to move out. You are certainly providing a homeland for Jews, okay, but that didn't have to be in Palestine. Do I think that Jews were entitled to a homeland after the Holocaust? Yeah, I do. I think that was certainly an understandable idea. Now, of course, there was controversy over that idea based on biblical and Talmudic notions, namely that only the Messiah could establish Israel, and from a Jewish point of view, the Messiah has not come, and so therefore, from their point of view, essentially the view held by the Satmar Hasidim, that present-day Israel is not legitimate. It's not biblically legitimate. But personally, as someone who doesn't care about that, who is looking at it in a purely pragmatic sense, I think that whether you called it Israel or something else, there was certainly a justification for having a homeland for Jews. Didn't have to be thought of as the Israel that would come when the Messiah comes, if certain people believed that would happen. In fact, however, a lot of the Jews who migrated to Israel were secular Jews. Many were atheists. So there was no reason for them to really care about whether the Messiah had or had not come. They were happy to have a place to move to, a place where they would not be persecuted, a place that they could run for themselves. Now, do I like that kind of ethnic segregation? Personally, I don't, because I think there's always a danger that having that kind of religious segregation could potentially lead to a certain kind of fascism. So on that level, I find it somewhat skeptical, but still, would I oppose it? No, I wouldn't oppose it. I just wouldn't support it, if that makes any sense. I would not work toward it, but if somebody wanted to do it, if somebody wanted to give Jews a portion of Germany, okay, fine, go ahead. That wouldn't matter to me, and I think that it might be justifiable. I could understand, why that might happen. So that is the point that I wanted to raise. Basically, if Jews globally are still attached to the traditional idea of Tiqqūn ḥa'olām, repairing, fixing the world, then how in the ʿōlām, ha'olām, is establishing a country which is already inhabited and inhabited by people who had nothing to do with the Holocaust, who did not cause the Holocaust? How is that repairing the world? You could argue it is making the world easier for Jews, but that's not Tiqqūn ḥa'olām. There's nothing about repairing the world for Jews specifically. It is repairing the world. And that's the way that it has historically been understood. And many Jews have seen their legacy, their mission in life, as that of Tiqqūn ḥa'olām, to repair the world. And certainly the formation of Israel on Palestinian land has done absolutely nothing to further that objective. Instead, what Israel has done is it has created a first world country, Israel, on a third world territory. It has placed an imperialist power, a country which would very soon become an extension of the American empire, American imperialism, the major contradiction of capitalism, right in the heart of the Middle East. What is happening now? Well, Israel is a very wealthy country. Most of the Arab countries in the Middle East are also quite wealthy. Iran is also wealthy, although it's not an Arab country predominantly. There are Arab regions of Iran, especially in the northern sectors of the country, but it's not primarily an Arabic-speaking country. But that part of the world is wealthy. There's a lot of money in the Near East, not only in Israel. And so, honestly, I am somewhat surprised that Israel did not enter into these kinds of agreements with Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, and under the covers, Saudi Arabia. I'm sure it will be formalized at some point. But all of those countries are dealing with each other as business partners. They share common capitalist interests. So Israel basically is the center, or one of the centers, of capitalism in the Near East. Those Arab countries, recognizing their own economic interest, decided, well, this country of Israel isn't going away anytime soon, so we might as well learn how to deal with it, and to deal with it for our own economic profit. And so now, really for the first time, Israel has been kind of welcomed into the family of nations in the Near East. Unfortunately, that welcoming has excluded the Palestinians. You don't find any Arab country inviting the Palestinians in anymore. For a while, Jordan did. Part of the Jordanian monarchy is actually Palestinian. So for a while, Jordan was a part of the exodus of Palestinians from Palestine. You could even say that Jordan itself is really a part of Palestine, in a sense. But Jordan now claims that it is too overpopulated. There really is not enough room for any more Palestinians. So the Palestinians are left in the same predicament as they have always been since the late 1940s. They are living in a place without a state, with nowhere to go. This is Mark, by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Maoist-Third Worldist Collective. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.